I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 185. If you don't already know, I'm Kev Tardello, coming to you on Wednesday, January 1st. And Happy New Year, sickos. How about it? What a great way to start 2025. The nice bowl game coming up on Friday. Texas State back in the First Responders Bowl, taking on the North Texas Mean Green, a game that has a series that has been dormant since 1994. So it'll be nice to reignite that bad blood from some of those past conferences. We got a great preview episode coming up for you. Hopefully you're listening to this on your way to Dallas, or if you live in Dallas, you can listen to it on the way to the game. Nice short drive for you. But we have GJ Kinne, head coach of the Texas State Bobcats, to preview this game, the First Responders Bowl. Great conversation with GJ. Got to catch up on some of the transfers that came in, talked about the game, who's going to play, what it means, this bowl game. He's all serious about this game. I asked him even if it was a little bit of evaluation going in for 2025, and no, it's all win. And we like that here at Win Now or Get Bent, no doubt about it. So lots to talk about. We'll talk about those transfers. Lots happened over the weekend. If you saw ahead of the bowl game, Bobcats got a handful of transfers. They announced 14 signed on Sunday. Gives them 36 for this 2025 class, including high school and JUCO players. I think it's 16 JUCO, 16 transfer, and then 4 for junior college. But we'll get there. We'll talk all about that. We'll talk about this game, and then we'll get to GJ Kinne. But before we get there, this episode is brought to you by First Lockhart National Bank. As the largest financial institution headquartered in Caldwell County, First Lockhart National Bank expanded to San Marcos in 2018 and opened the state-of-the-art branch on Hunter Road in 2020. For the past 6 years, FLNB has provided a wide range of financial services that have significantly improved the quality of life for the San Marcos community and beyond. Whether you need personal or business checking accounts, business loans, or home mortgages, they've got you covered. Plus, they offer innovative services like video banking, business banking, and top-of-the-line mobile banking app. FLNB is also a huge supporter of Texas State football, standing out as one of the largest initial investors in NIL deals for Bobcats players. That was very important. We talked to GJ Kinne about this. Hang in there for that interview. Be sure to follow them on Twitter, X at First Lockhart, and on Instagram at First Lockhart. Shout out to my guy Gil Hodges, Senior Vice President at FLNB in MLS number 2475765. A proud Texas State grad and a diehard fan. We are thrilled to be partnering with Gil and FLNB all season long. You can find them at 2507 Hunter Road. That's 2507 Hunter Road, or give them a call at 512-504-7422. Again, that's 512-504-7422. First Lockhart National Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions may vary. Hey, Bobcat Nation. Looking for your next real estate move? McNabb and Company Real Estate Services has been proudly Bobcat owned and operated for over 15 years. They're your go-to team for buying, selling, investing, and managing properties and everything else in between. Whether you're a fan or an alum, they've got the local expertise and full-service support you need. Call them today at 512-667-9129. Again, that's 512-667-9129, or visit them at mcnabbandco.com. That's MCNABB, mcnabbandco.com. McNabb and Company, where Bobcats find their home. Give them a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and X at McNabb & Co. Thank you to Monica Katz, a day one Bobcat supporter. She partnered up with us this whole season, got us all the way to the bowl game. Check them out again, mcnabbandco.com, MCNABB, mcnabbandco.com. And one more for our guys at Austin Patchmaster, austin.patchmaster.com. Drywall, sheetrock, plaster repair, cracked walls, cracked ceilings, paint jobs, dings and dents, popcorn ceiling removal. Did you punch a hole in your wall after seeing so many Bobcats enter the transfer portal? No worries. Austin Patchmaster has got you covered. Whether you're moving in, moving out, or just looking to upgrade, Austin Patchmaster is your go-to. They are owned and operated by Tech State grad and a true Tech State sicko, Michael Clements, my guy. Austin Patchmaster is one of our first sponsors, and they are back to finish out the season all the way through the bowl game. They're servicing the Austin, San Marcos area, but if you're a sicko in Dallas or Houston, they can get you a referral as a franchise. So hit them up at austin.patchmaster.com, and you can call them at 512-200-3888. Again, that's 512-200-3888. All right, let's get to these Bobcats. Filming this on New Year's Day. We got GJ Kinne coming up, as I said. Nice little treat for you on New Year's Day. I'm glad he was able to make some time. Been a busy week for him with bowl game coming up and still recruiting. We saw all those recruits come in on Sunday. We'll definitely talk about them. I was sitting here after I interviewed him, started watching that Texas-Arizona State game, and what a game that was. I mean, incredible Peach Bowl, incredible performance by the Sun Devils. Texas, they were able to win it in double overtime after those quick 2 touchdowns. Scored one to finish first overtime, and they scored one to start the second overtime, very first play. Great performance by Arizona State. That's an opponent, obviously, that Texas State played. They played them really close. It's 27-24. That Thursday night game in San Marcos, Cam Scatabo, who we've heard all about all season. Some say he should have been a Heisman finalist. We saw him against Texas really finish that game strong. Just 62 yards against Texas State. This is a Tech State offense that put up 400 yards against this team. So I start out with that, talking about that, because it's a reminder of how good this team is, how talented this squad is that is coming up playing in this bowl game for Texas State. Yeah, they're missing quite a few of those talented players: Ishmati, Cole Wilson, Ben Bell, Alex Harkey. A lot of these guys, they won't be in the bowl game, but the depth chart came out and it's still looking really strong. So we'll go over that depth chart here in a sec. But seeing that Arizona State team, an opponent that we got to see up close and personal here in San Marcos. I was on the sideline for that game, so I got to really see this team. It's great to see a team like that is competitive this late, that Texas State was able to hang with. Obviously, no moral victories ever, especially not here. But the Bobcats, they were in that one up until the 5 minutes left in that game when some turnovers happened and really sunk them. But they hung in there. They hung in there with a really good Sun Devil team. And how about the Sun Devils doing what they're doing? Kenny Dillingham, young coach, doing what they're doing. But let's switch gears. Let's talk a little bit about the transfers that have came in for Texas State. The last episode, if you listen to 184, we talked all about that. We dove in deep. If you have a long drive up to Dallas, go ahead and turn that one on. If you hadn't listened to it, you can really go in depth with these transfers. They added even more, though. They added 10 more than we talked about. They signed 14. 4 of those were ones that we did talk about, like Nate Yarnell, Jordan Sanders, Greg Burrell, Tyron Smith. These are guys that we talked about before Terrence Cooks. I mean, I don't think we talked about Tyron Smith. We talked about Terrence Cooks, and then they announced him on Sunday. But then there were 10 other ones that they brought in as well. Officially signing Nate Yarnell is huge. I got to ask GJ Kinne about that. So if you listen in for that interview, you'll hear what he has to say about Nate Yarnell getting that quarterback, 6'6" quarterback from Lake Travis. They officially signed him up. Got to dive in a little deeper into his film since the last time I did a pod. And I really like what I see from him, especially when you see there's and I say I dove into his film. I dove into highlights. I want to go in and watch some of these full games, especially Clemson. He got in there a lot versus Clemson. That seemed like it was his best performance. But then there were some other games like SMU where he got in there. I want to go back and actually watch those games. But watching the highlights was a great 10-minute highlight package that the ACC put out there, and just watching him progress as the year goes on. And this was the first year, this is his 4th year at Pitt, redshirted the first year, 2 games is the redshirt freshman year, 4 games the following year. Then he finally got in 9, an extended amount of time. Wasn't the starter, but he had made quite a few appearances. And just to see him progress as the season goes on and culminating in that Clemson game where he had 350 yards and a pretty good performance, some good throws. I really liked what I saw. I think there's a really good template there. Confident in saying he's the front runner going into the offseason, but that's not saying anything about Brad Jackson at all. I know they still think really highly of him. And we'll see if he even gets in there in this bowl game. That could even happen coming up as well. But I'm really I think that's a really savvy pickup by Texas State, kind of an under radar pickup, going out and getting a guy who's a backup, but he's really local, being from Lake Travis, someone who was even recruited by Texas State when he was coming out of high school. So I like the film. I really like what I've seen of him, and I'm excited to see what he brings in the spring. They officially signed him up. They signed Greg Burrell, the running back from UNLV. He's officially signed. I brought up Tyron Smith earlier as a wide receiver from Cincinnati. 5'7", a shorter receiver, but man, is he a burner. He played at UTEP, made Conference USA honorable mention his season, his 2023 season at UTEP before playing at Cincy this past season. I think that's a good Cole Wilson replacement. I have him kind of marked for that. You know, having to replace he's a slot receiver that can really take the top off the defense, but he can also do some intermediary routes. So I really like what he brings as well. Quincy Brown is another receiver from Nichols. Played at TCU for a bit, but really played at Nichols last year. Different kind of receiver than Tyron Smith, 6'4". So they go out and get two transfer receivers, two different types of receivers. Ty Stammy, tight end from Louisiana. Another tight end they're bringing in is a 6'6" player who's a true freshman at Louisiana. Got in there, played a little bit for the Raging Cajuns. Decided to come back home from Texas. He's from Clean Collins, so he's back in the Lone Star State. Terrence Cooks the second. We talked about him, linebacker. He's officially signed up. Same with Chance Johnson, linebacker from Texas A&M. He's officially signed. A new linebacker we hadn't talked about is Aiden Jones, linebacker from Prairie View A&M. It's a fifth linebacker they've brought in with this recruiting class. So they are totally revamping that position. It'll be interesting to see what they do going forward with this defense, if it will stay the 4-2-5 like we've seen, if they decide to change it up. Who knows? It'll be interesting going into year 2 of Dexter McCoyle as the defensive coordinator. Jordan Sanders at defensive line at a Cal Poly. We talked about him. Charlie Leota, defensive lineman from West Texas A&M, big guy, 6'3", 350 pounds, really helps out that interior defensive line spot that we talked about on the last episode 184. Definitely need some of that interior defensive line help with Terry Webb, Tavian Coleman, and some other, Alex Merritt, these guys graduating. It's good to see that speaking of Terry Webb and Tavian Coleman, I guess I'll talk more about them in the depth chart. Good to see them playing in this bowl game. Charlie Leota, though, I went and checked his 247 page, and it said he committed Texas State, and then it says that he's back at West Texas. Said that he re-enrolled there. Doesn't have anything on his bio on Twitter about Texas State, so I don't know if that one actually went through. But that's a big one. Literally, it's 6'3", 350 pounds. So if they can secure that one, they definitely need that interior defensive line help. Kennard Snyder, he's in there as well. Edge, Iowa State ULM player. Another new one from Sunday is Chase Davis, defensive back, Utah State. 6'3" defensive back. They've signed 7 defensive backs, including the 2 high schoolers. All of them are over 6 feet. Pretty impressive stuff. They're really going after the taller DBs. Dexter McCoyle, 6'4" safety, played in the NFL. He says, I know the system works. I've played it myself. Another tall DB, Malik the Villain Willis, DB from Campbell, the Fighting Campbell's Campbell, one of my favorite logos in all of college football. I like the nickname The Villain. He had that on his bio, so I thought I'd throw that in there. 6'2" DB for Malik Willis, not to be confused with the quarterback in the NFL. Javis Minette, DB from Wofford. We already know about him, 6 foot as well. Jaden Rios, DB from East Texas, 6 foot. He's a player I think I forgot to talk about on the last pod. And then Trey Dubuque, long snapper, South Florida. Can't forget the long snappers. Those are the 16 transfers that they have signed in there after bringing in 10 more or 14 total that they officially signed on Sunday. They're JUCO signed players. They have 4 of them for this 2025 class. Deverick Woods is a new player we saw on Sunday, defensive lineman from Hines Community College. Another interior defensive lineman, another big body, definitely something they needed to address. Another position they needed to address is defensive back, with 9 DBs being gone, whether through the portal or seniors graduating. They went and got Jalen Bohm Peterson. It's a DB from Iowa Western, 6'3", another tall DB. And then, of course, Alan Grimmy from Jones College and Cam Schultz from Jones College. We've talked about them. Add them to the other 16 high school players, which we've gone through ad nauseum, so I won't do that to you again. That's your 2025 class. It's a nice spread out class. This is the first time where we've really seen it. At this point, it's completely even between transfers and high school players. It used to be real transfer heavy, and then it would lean towards more balance between JUCO and high school. Now it's balanced between four-year transfers and high school. Really appreciate this class. And I mean, going through it, the last episode, we talked about 38 players out. It's 39, actually, because I forgot to talk about Devin Wright, defensive end. So we said 6 defensive linemen were out. It was actually 7 were out. So yeah, Devin Wright, another defensive end that's out. They're pretty short on defensive ends coming up in this game on Friday. We will talk about that one. They do have some good key players, but not a ton of depth at that defensive end spot. But 39 out, 36 in. We're not even to the next signing day in February. And they've already signed 36 players. After all those announcements on Sundays, signing those transfer players, signing those JUCO players, and really impressive stuff, what they have been able to do in this short window. And even adjusting on the fly with GJ Kinne talking about this recruiting class, saying it's not going to be as big as the ones before. But then a lot, stuff happens. Guys go in the portal. Things happen this day and age. And they had to adjust, and they went out and they recruited and brought in some really quality players. Because even when you go through the offers, a lot of these guys, we have a lot to talk about, so I won't do all that. But they are offers from peers, from UNT, from schools of that caliber that they have been competing against in recruiting. More reasons why that this game on Friday matters. It matters in recruiting, and GJ talks a little bit about that in the interview about how much that does matter. This matchup, it's a bargaining chip that you have on the recruiting trail. So yeah, total out, like I was saying, 39. Total in 36. Those 36 broken out by position: 8 defensive linemen, 7 DBs, 5 wide receivers, 5 linebackers, 4 offensive linemen, 2 QBs, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, and a deep snapper. I don't have many notes as far as what they should add. I look at 5 offensive linemen out, 4 brought back in. So, maybe you could use an offensive lineman, maybe another receiver here and there, but I really don't have many notes. I like what they've done a lot in recruiting with the recovering. It's going to be really hard to recover in like the defensive backfield and on the defensive line, but they have at least gotten enough bodies and depth that they can parse through it and figure out where the talent is. So I don't think they're done. They're definitely going to add more before the next signing day in February. They still have a commitment from Kevion Carter, Wagner, linebacker. At least I'm pretty sure he's still committed. I hadn't talked to him since before Christmas. So we'll see how all that shakes out. But 2025, talk about reloading after losing a bunch of key players. Like I said in the last episode, I'm not going to say they're going to completely replicate what they've done, but I feel a lot more confident this episode than I did last episode, especially looking at some of these weapons at receiver that they're able to bring in, and just how you have Chris Don coming back. You have Bo Sparks coming back. We have some other talented guys we haven't seen a ton of, like Kylan Evans, Jordan Martin, just guys who were here this past season we haven't seen a ton of. Maybe we'll see them on Friday. But then you're bringing in 2 really good transfers. I really like Tyron Smith. Like I said, that Cole Wilson spot is going to be pretty wide open. And that's one that it seems like he could fill. He can step right into those shoes and play that one, which is, it's a big ask for sure, because Cole Wilson was a great player for this team. But yeah, I really, really appreciate this class and like where it's at so far. I'm excited to see what it looks like in the spring, and just what the depth's going to shake out and where players end up going. And as we've seen with these with the transfer portal with GJ Kinne, we're going into year 3 with him now. It's 2025. We've seen the trickle as all through the spring and even into the summer and even into fall camp with these transfers, adding more of them. So we'll see where it continues to go. But let's talk about this game on Friday. Texas State versus UNT. We've got they've had transfer portal problems themselves, UNT, with especially Chandler Morris is the big one at quarterback. He's not going to be there for them. Some other key players on offense. This is a high-powered offense, and they're missing some key guys, just same way the Bobcats are. The Bobcats do have their quarterback coming back, which is pretty big. It's big enough where I think there is a big reason why they are favored by as much as they are by Vegas and the odds makers. 13.5 points, basically 2 touchdowns. Texas State is favored on Friday. You do like to see that, especially on a team who owns, UNT owns the all-time record against Texas State or Southwest Texas State. 29-7-3. They own that, so it'd be nice to get one. Get it up to 8. Still a long way to go. Still 21 more to go to even tie the thing, but it'd be nice to get one there. Let's look at Texas State's depth chart, and even on UNT's depth chart. Real quick before I jump into Texas State's. Drew Messmaker, a true freshman, is going to be starting for UNT, is what it seems like. Cash McCollum he's the backup listed on their depth chart, although we saw him enter the transfer portal. Looks like he's still going to be in the game. Probably a good opportunity for him to showcase what he has if he gets in there and gets to play. But not an ideal situation for them, but we'll see. I mean, who knows? Maybe this is their opportunity to get on a stage and make something of it but two freshmen on the depth chart for UNT. For Texas State at quarterbacks, Jordan McLeod listed as the starter, Brad Jackson as the backup. I asked GJ Kinne if he thought we would see any of Brad Jackson, because I've seen some rumors floated out there that Jordan McLeod might not play the whole game. I mean, maybe it's a Cam Ward situation like with Miami, where he only played the first half. Not exactly sure what's going on there. And he wasn't really fully committal on anything, but who knows how it shakes out if they see Brad Jackson. But whether it happens or not, and whether it's a blowout and so Brad Jackson gets in there, or if it's a reason to preserve Jordan McLeod, I'm not mad at it either way, because I think it's a good opportunity for Brad Jackson to get in there and just get more experience, especially in a postseason game. And just get into that moment and see what he's made of going into 2025. Because even though I was talking up Nate Yarnell earlier, Brad Jackson showed us quite a bit this past season, and I'm ready for him to get a chance. I'm ready for him to go into spring break and really have an opportunity or spring practice and really have an opportunity to compete for the starting quarterback spot. And so maybe that starts on Friday. Maybe it doesn't. Running back, no Mahdi, as we said. Ish Mahdi, he's gone. He's off to Arizona. Wish him well. I really do. I'm going to be rooting for him with the Wildcats. One of my favorite players I've covered at Texas State. Great story, great person, great player. Lincoln Perry listed as the starter. Lincoln Perry and Torrance Burgess with the or. I'm pretty sure it's going to go to Lincoln Perry. It should. Torrance Burgess is a pretty good back himself, though. Deion Hankins also listed there. Hank the Tank. We only got 1 year with that big running back. 228. He's listed. Man, I really, maybe he'll get in some goal line situations. Jalen Jenkins also listed on the depth chart. We know he entered the transfer portal, but looks like he's going to be in that game. Senior Connor Fox, he's going to come back and start at tight end for Texas State. Nice to see that. Titus Lyons listed behind him. Jake Simpson, the freshman, behind Lyons. First wide receiver, we have Chris Dawn or Bo Sparks. They have They like the oars. They like the oars, the staff on the depth chart. No problem there. Kylan Evans, the freshman, we were just talking about him behind those guys. Could see some Kylan Evans. That'd be nice to see. Langston Anderson also listed, even though he's in the transfer portal. Joey Hobart, senior, listed as a starter. Looks like he'll be playing, which is great to see. Bo Sparks listed as his backup. The other starting receiver, Jaden Williams, another senior, one and done for Jaden Williams. Man, he was a blast to watch. Real shame that he's just one and done, but he'll start in this game. On the offensive line, at left tackle, we've got Dorian Strawn. We saw a lot of him. He'll be back next season. At left guard, Nash Jones, senior, last go with the Bobcats. We get to see him in the East-West Shrine Bowl in Arlington at the end of January. It's great that he got that invite. Great to see him in this one. Remember him, he scored a touchdown in the First Responders Bowl last year at offensive line, a thick 6. Gotta love that, a thick 6. At center, Chase Todd, another senior, going to be playing in the bowl game. Right guard, Talik Lockett, terrific season, his first season with the Bobcats. Done some real damage in the Sun Belt coming over from ULM. He'll be back next year. And then at right tackle, Trenton Scott and plays Alex Harkey. And Alex Harkey off to Oregon, big time for Alex Harkey. But Trenton Scott's going to get in there and get that start. I mentioned Sully Burns, but I don't see him at that right tackle spot because even behind him is Bammy Badusi. Sully Burns is the Tulane transfer. Big player, saw him in fall camp, thought he was gonna get in there more. Not sure what's going on at that situation, but maybe Bammy Badusi was a true freshman last year. This was redshirt freshman year. Maybe he's really elevated his place in the roster. 6'6", 317 for Bammy. So hey man, Bam Badusi. No I at the end of it. I feel like it used to be Bammy Badusi. But that could be a Mandela effect right there. Who knows? All right, let's talk about defense. Defensive end, Bryce Bass, senior, going to be back. Gardner Webb transfer, one and done with the Bobcats. Awesome season for him, especially with all the situations going on at defensive end, with Ben Bell taking a red shirt, Stephen Parker getting injured. Bryce Bass really stepped up and started the last 9 consecutive games for the Bobcats, so he'll be in there. I really like who's listed behind not just Bryce Bass, but the other 2 defensive, 3 of the 4 defensive lineman spots. The backup is Tymere Jackson. It's a player we've brought up before. He came in. He's a junior college player. Was talked about very highly in fall camp, but we didn't see a lot of him. Wears number 42, 6'5", 235 at that defensive end spot. I don't know if maybe they were preserving a red shirt or what's going on, or who knows? Who knows what's happening with that situation? But he's listed all across the D line, and maybe it's just because they need to fill in roster spots. But this is somebody I've wanted to see get in there and get a shot at that on the defensive line. So Tymere Jackson, number 42. The third defensive end listed is Michael Boudin III. If you know who he is, he's a defensive back. Usually plays that nickel position. So that's kind of interesting. That's how short they are, how thin they are at defensive end. They may have safeties playing defensive end, but hey, man, they got speed. Get after the quarterback, I guess. The other defensive end, Jalazen Landry, he really came along. His true redshirt freshman season. He really came along. Got to see him, 6'3", 245, big defensive end. Another player listed below him is Jeremy Jackson Jr., another freshman this season. Maybe we'll get to see some of him as well. Terry Webb and Tavian Coleman are going to be manning the inside defensive lineman spots. That's great to see. 2 players who were seniors this year. Seemed like their eligibility was done. Then there was a whole ruling by the NCAA which allowed junior college players to extend their eligibility by 1 season if they played in junior college, because the NCAA ruled that Diego Pavia, the Vanderbilt quarterback, that his NIL rights were infringed upon by taking away his eligibility due to playing in JUCO. So across the board, junior college players got an extra year of eligibility, but both of them are in the transfer portal, getting a lot of P4 offers for Tavian Coleman and Terry Webb. But it was real late in the process, this ruling, so they haven't transferred yet, and it seems like they're going to play in this bowl game, which is awesome. I know Tavian Coleman graduated from Texas State. I saw his post talking about being a first-generation grad. I know he's a real proud Bobcat. He was on, I've interviewed him quite a bit. A real big fan of Tavian Coleman. His 2 years here have been really special. He's been a big part of the change, him and Terry Webb both. Glad to see that they are both going to be in that bowl game. Very excited to see that. Same with Alex Merritt. He was a senior this year. He'll be back. The Eastern Michigan transfer. He'll be back on the interior D-line. Much needed. Same with Cameron Washington, who we'll see next year, back with the Bobcats. At that edge position, we've got Khalil Alexander. We know Khalil, number 22. He's been doing great stuff for the Bobcats the last 2 years. He's going to be back next year. I think it's going to be a big opportunity for him next season to really step into a vacant role at that edge spot, because he's done nothing but improve every step of the way, it feels, here at Texas State. Real excited to see him back in the First Responders Bowl. He had a great First Responders Bowl last year, so there he is. He'll be back. At the weak side linebacker spot, we have Manny Nunnery or Kenny Haynes. Kenny Haynes, last go around, 6 years at Texas State. Terrific career for him, coming to a conclusion in this bowl game. Glad he's going to play in it. Middle linebacker, we have James Neal, another senior who's going to play in the bowl game. Traylon Payne, we saw a lot of him this year. Derek Morning, we talked a lot about the linebackers in episode 184. A lot of these guys, a lot of additions being added that are going to be playing with Morning, Payne, and Haynes next year. At corner, a senior, Chris Mills, his career at Texas State coming to an end in this bowl game. Glad to see him playing in that. What a career for him at Texas State. Been a starting corner for years here. Behind him is Dante Thompson. Corner is an Arkansas State transfer, another player who entered the portal, but seems like he's going to play in the bowl game. Jordan Polk, senior, listed as a starter. Seems like he's going to be starting in that one. One and done season for him. Really liked what he brought to the table this season. A lot of grit at that nickel corner, that star position is what they call it. Justin Harris, Cincinnati transfer, just one season playing behind Polk, and Marion Atwood. At that free safety spot, we got Bobby Crosby, senior, last go around also with the Bobcats, and then Ryan Nolan, who's a sophomore. And then Torrey Spears, gosh, talk about a long career. Torrey Spears, his career is at Texas State is coming to a close. I believe it's year 7 for Torrey Spears, 4 at Texas State. And then Darius Jackson behind him. And then Trez Moore at corner. We saw Trez Moore really start to come along towards the end of the season. So even though a lot of players in the portal and a lot of seniors, those seniors are coming back. We talked about those 39 players that are out. Total, a lot of them are coming back for this bowl game. So that's big for Texas State. They're still stacked. This team is stacked. I have no qualms with the talent. I feel did they underachieve this season with 7 wins? Yeah, but they're still incredibly stacked, and I feel like this team is going to come out and display that on Friday against a UNT team that is a little bit down right now. As far as personnel, I mean, both sides are down. So, I mean, it is evened out somewhat. But I feel like the Bobcats still have a lot of key players left, and the recruiting classes from the last 2 years are going to show up as far as this depth that we've talked about. They're really going to be able to unleash it. It's going to be fun, though. 2 high-powered offenses. We'll see how high-powered they are without their starting quarterback. With the true freshman at quarterback, UNT is who I'm talking about, of course. We'll see how much Jordan McLeod plays and what that whole situation is going to look like for Texas State. But I still think this is going to be a pretty high-scoring game. I said earlier, Texas State favored by 13.5. I think they're going to beat that. Give me 45-21. Same score as the bowl game last season. That's what I'm thinking it's going to be. Such an interesting game, though. The ties between the coaching staffs. Both coaches were the head coach at Incarnate Word. GJ Kinne was the successor of Eric Morris at Incarnate Word. Both had terrific tenures with the Cardinals. Both have high-powered offenses. Both G5 coaches in the state of Texas. Both young coaches. GJ Kinne, 36. Morris is 38, 39 years old. Just interesting stuff. Cutter Leftwich, the offensive line coach for UNT, is the brother of the former offensive coordinator for Texas State, Mac Leftwich, which we talk about offensive coordinator who's going to call the plays. Talk about that with GJ Kinne coming up as well. Get into that a little bit. The whole Chandler Morris connection. It's just it's an interesting deal, and it's a school I went to. It's where I went my first year. I'm pretty sure I've brought that up before. That I went to UNT my first year before seeing the light and transferring to Texas State, where I have remained ever since in good old San Marcos. So it's interesting. It's interesting the ties between the two programs, and even talking to Kinne about that coming up. Just about where as soon as he saw UNT was bowl eligible, he just thought to himself, okay, where are we going to play these guys? He knew it was going to happen. It was inevitable, especially even Kinne and Morris both being up for the Texas State job. Morris even being offered the Texas State job before Kinne took it. And then Morris goes on to UNT instead. It's fascinating. It's fascinating that it's all come to this on January 3rd. And it felt like the season was forever ago at this point. I mean, it was over a month ago. It's been a long time, but it's actually been a benefit. We just talked about recruiting and all the players they're able to sign. They were able to take care of that, lock in these players, lock in pretty much an entire class. I mean, I'm sure they're definitely going to add more, but as far as I'm concerned, this class is just about done. And they locked it in on Sunday before their bowl games on Friday. So they had a lot of time. The entire transfer portal window from December 9th to December 28th, they were relatively available. Obviously, they're preparing for the bowl game, but they didn't go to Dallas until this week. So they were available to take visits and everything. So that actually ended up being a pretty big benefit to have that time recruiting wise. I mean, at least I assume so. I don't think I actually got in that specific with Kinne coming up, but it seemed like that was a massive benefit for coaching staff like GJ Kinne. They're always ahead of the curve. They're young guys, so they're real good at doing that, thinking a few steps ahead, thinking where some of these guys who've been set in their ways doing coaching for years, it's still relatively new to them, so change isn't as scary, so they're willing to try different things. They've been really good at that. And we've seen them before when they have an extended period of time to prepare for a team, like when they prepared for Baylor to start the 2023 season, when they were able to prepare for Rice when they had just about the same amount of time, not as much time, about a week less, to prepare for Rice in the First Responders Bowl last year. They were able to come up with a good game plan and able to really attack these opponents when they have a lot of time to study it and go after it. So that's why I'm very confident in Texas State. I'm excited to get up there. I'm getting up there Thursday. There's a nice bowl game shindig at the Westin on January 2nd. I'll make sure to be there for that, to rein in the bowl game. But I'm confident. I'm confident in Texas State going into this game. I think that they're well prepared to take on the UNT Mean Green, North Texas Mean Green Eagles, back in the First Responders Bowl. Still surreal. It's still crazy that they're back in the same bowl and it's UNT. I think that's more like surreal for me personally. It's like, wow, okay, here we go. Let's do this. But let's cut to GJ Kinne. Great interview with GJ Kinne. Again, thank you to GJ Kinne for making time on a busy bowl week and doing this great interview. But hang in there. Texas State head coach GJ Kinne coming up next. We're now joined by a very special guest, Texas State head coach GJ Kinne, ahead of the Bobcats' second dip into the First Responders Bowl coming up on Friday. GJ Kinne, how you feeling today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm ready for another trip to Dallas. I'm still in San Marcos. It's Wednesday, but I'll be heading up on Thursday.
Yeah, great weather here. A couple really good days of practice. Should be an exciting one for sure.
Yeah, and I said I'm not there yet, but you guys have been there for a little bit. Seems like you got there on Monday, wanted to get there early, get acclimated. I'm sure. What went into that decision? What's that been like?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time these bowls, they have different events. So, we got here the first night and had a bowling / football. I think they called it like foaling or something like that. So that was fun and just kind of getting the guys out and seeing North Texas a little bit and seeing some of their coaches and getting to talk to them and catch up with some old friends and we've had different events every day but practice and that's why I keep telling the guys, like, all these events are fun and it's good to do, but let's keep the main thing and that's practice and preparing and getting ready for a really good football team.
Yeah, I saw some of that foaling. I hadn't seen that before, but that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I just kind of sat and ate and drank my sweet tea, so I didn't really participate. But the guys seemed to enjoy it.
You didn't want to show off your arm. You don't want to show anybody up, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could. It was fun watching Jordan McLeod in those videos. I can tell he's a six-year college student calling for the celeb shot. It's like, no doubt. He's been around a bit.
For sure. Yeah. It was fun, getting to see the guys, take over the social media and have fun. And cause it is, I mean, this is a reward for those guys and it's it's a couple fun events and I always enjoy it cause it's another in-state opponent and a lot of recruiting battles and things like that. So, kind of getting to see those coaches and kind of see their players and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, and on top of that, UNT, the opponent, they're right there. They're 45 minutes away from that campus. So I'm sure gets a little bit of cuts a little bit of that advantage by getting up there early and almost taking away that road trip feel of having to travel, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't really looked at it like that way, but that is a good point. Yeah.
Coming up for the game on Wednesday, or I'm sorry, on Friday. Today's Wednesday. We got to see a depth chart come out, and we got to see a lot of these players, a lot of seniors that are going to be in there, even some that maybe in the transfer portal still coming out. It's the second bowl in a row where you've had a lot of retention with some of these guys, getting them to play in that bowl game. We talked about it last year going into it, but what goes into that? Getting these guys to come back into the play for the postseason, even if they're moving on afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where this is a reward for those guys, and they put in a lot of hard work, and they want to go out and play. And like I said, we're not making anybody play, but the guys that wanted to be here and play in the game and play for each other and play for the Bobcats and the university. I think it's a real special thing, and just super appreciative for all those players and coaches as well.
On the other side for UNT, it's the same situation with the transfer portal as it is for everybody, where they're even missing their starting quarterback. How do you prepare for a team like that, where it's going to look pretty different, where there won't be some of their key players?
Yeah, it is a little different, and it's different for us. Like you said, I don't know how many starters are out for us, but we have quite a few starters out, and I know they have quite a few starters out. So, you really just watch the film and try to game plan accordingly. And I know there's going to be some wrinkles on both sides, and you got to be prepared for that and be able to adjust in game. But one thing I know about that coaching staff over there in North Texas is really good people, really good coaches. And they're going to have those guys ready to go no matter who's playing, just like we will.
Yeah, and speaking of that coaching staff, Eric Morris, you definitely know him. I mean, the ties, there's so many of them, especially Incarnate Word, both being head coaches there. Just press on that a little bit and what that experience is going to be like facing him in a bowl game. It's all feels like it's accumulated to this. It's kind of fascinating. In year two.
It is kind of crazy. Obviously he recruited my brother McLean. I know the one article said Landry, but Landry's on staff here. It was my brother McLean Carter who they ended up signing, and he ended up starting a couple games for him at quarterback. And so Eric really did a lot of the quarterback recruiting and signed McLean and was his lead recruiter. And so really got to get to know him a little bit, throughout that process. I was heavily involved with it. And then obviously, kept in touch with him throughout the years. And when he left to go be the offensive coordinator at Washington State. It was one of those deals where, we talked and getting ready for the interview process, because that was a job that I really wanted. And he was kind of giving me the, ins and outs of UIW and kind of what that looked like. And then after I got the job, there'd be some, calls and questions that came up that he was very helpful with. And so very appreciative for him for all that. And obviously we got Mac Leftwich's brother's the O-line coach, and a couple of those guys on staff, either have worked with before or know really well. So, a lot of our guys on our staff coach, or work for Coach Morris at UIW. So just a ton of, like you said, connections and storylines and all that. But, just have a ton of respect for Coach Morris and everything he's about. And so it will be exciting to play him. And it was like one of those deals where when both teams got bowl eligible, it was like, all right, yeah, this is going to happen. Just where are we going to play? We're going to have to go to New Mexico. We're going to play in Dallas. So
I'm thankful for Dallas. I heard that New Mexico one, we would have had to go over some mountains and, nice easy trip right at 5:35.
For sure.
I'll take that any day.
Yeah, for sure. I was very thankful to stay in Dallas and stay in Texas, and it just made more sense.
The process of getting a bowl invite, what is that like? How much say do you have, or the administrators have? Do you really just have lobbying? Do you guys have an actual say in it, or how's that work? I mean, back years in Texas, gotta love that.
Yeah, I don't know enough about that process to really give you a great answer. I think ESPN has a lot to do with it. And I think, maybe the conferences have a lot to do with it, but I'm not sure that the universities have much say.
Yeah. You brought up Cutter Leftwich earlier, the offensive line coach at UNT, almost had a brother square off with.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
That would have been cool, but with no OC for you guys, you've
Yeah.
said before it's going to be kind of by committee, the
Yeah.
plays being called and everything. What's that going to look like on Friday?
Yeah, like you said, it'll be by committee, and obviously have a ton of respect for Coach Mac Leftwich and everything. We've been together for a really long time, so he'll definitely be missed. But it's been fun to get in there and get in there with the offensive staff and kind of like you said, more of a group. Project almost type situation, really getting in there with it because we have some really good offensive coaches and everyone kind of putting their input on there and even the players getting some player input and going out there and putting together a really good game plan.
Do you think that I'm sure, of course, as you're the head coach, you'll have final say? Do you think you'll be to do a lot of the play calling yourself?
We'll see. We'll see kind of what it looks like and kind of go from there. It's obviously nothing, going to say anything that's going to help the opponent. So we'll go out there and, like I said, be a group effort and shoot, we might let Jordan McLeod call the plays. Who knows?
Hey, he has a lot of experience. That
Exactly.
guy,
Exactly.
I'd trust him to do it, no doubt
Yeah,
about it.
I agree.
We just saw a lot of signings come in recruiting, a lot more signings from the transfer portal. You guys are up to 35, 36 players for this 2025 class. You kind of slow played it. You probably didn't expect to get this many when we talked about it at the beginning of December, but it was a bit of an avalanche with so many players. This is 3 classes in a row. You've been really able to work the portal. Obviously, it's the Wild West these days. Thousands of players in the portal. You have players leaving, new ones coming in. Just it's so hard to get your hands around it as people watching it. I can't imagine being a coach. What's the answer to fixing this whole thing, do you think? I mean, we've heard reform. We heard that from the AD at UNT.
Yeah.
What do you think needs to get some control on that whole situation?
I don't know. I know we've been working really hard just to, with the rules in place, just to try to navigate it the best possible. There's lots of opinions and thoughts on it, but I think for us, whatever the rules are, we're gonna, apply by those or abide by those, and really just go out there and work the portal. And like you said, we signed the high school kids and junior college and portal and really hit all 3 of those and just try to assemble the best team possible every year. And I feel like our coaching staff and the administration and everyone really involved that goes with that, because now you have unlimited visits. So now you're trying to navigate that, and you don't want to waste people's time and waste our money and do all that. You're trying to hit on guys that you bring in and try to develop a relationship and try to develop any kind of connections and really just try to get as much information as possible on a kid that gets in the portal, and then you bring him on a visit, maybe the next day or next, that weekend or whatever that looks like. There's just so much that goes into it behind the scenes. You have to make sure they're cleared academically and try to get as much info from maybe a coach that was at the school previously. So just you're constantly on the phone. I mean, you're on the phone, to the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, just on the phone, working the lines and just trying to figure out as much information as possible on these guys.
Yeah, and that's not healthy for anyone. The students, the coaches. It's not it doesn't feel very, very productive. It's got to come to a head at some point. But either way, you guys have been,
for sure.
You've been killing it. Either way, you've been doing a great job getting guys
for
in.
Sure.
And we'll talk more about these signees down the road after the bowl game. But if I want to talk about one real quick, it's Nate Yarnell. You bring in a quarterback from Pitt, local guy from Lake Travis, right up in Austin. When did you identify him? What about him made you want to bring him in and just talk about Nate Yarnell?
Yeah, I think him being a local guy was important to us. You talk about taking back Texas. I think that's something, he had playing experience. Talked to Coach Narduzzi and he said a lot of great things about him and there were some more connections, throughout, just the administration and Texas State people and that reached out to me. And so, a lot goes into signing a person, but, I think he, fits what we want to do. And he's really smart, has a big arm, like I said, has that playing experience. And so he was somebody that we thought would, be a good fit for us. And we're really excited about him.
With quarterbacks coming into this game, any expectation for Brad Jackson to get in there? Is it going to be all Jordan McLeod the whole game, or what are you thinking there?
We'll see what that looks like. Obviously, McLeod's a starter, but like we've done the past couple of weeks. We have packages, and Brad's been getting a ton of reps at practice and getting ready, and that's probably been not the biggest disappointment from the bowl season and all that kind of good stuff. Like last year, we were able to really get some really good practices in, and this year as well. It just some of the things from a developmental standpoint that you like to get, just because we're low on numbers and bodies. We haven't been able to get as much of the Bobcat balls, like we like to say, like, some guys, the red shirt guys and underclassmen and some walk-ons, getting those guys a ton of reps. And that's fun for everybody. That's fun for the older guys. That's fun for the young guys, and letting them go out there and really seeing what they got. So, we've missed a little bit of that because of just the low amount of bodies that we've had, getting ready for the bowl.
But it also, that offers an interesting situation for going into next year, where some of these guys who didn't get a ton of playing time throughout the season, you get to look at them a little more. Like the depth chart that came out, I saw Tymir Jackson listed quite a bit. I know that was somebody you guys were talking quite a bit about in fall camp. How much of this game is, obviously you want to win the game and that's important, but how much is evaluation important in this one for guys coming into next season?
Not to be like negative, but really zero, to be honest with you. I think the evaluation, some practice stuff, but for me, it's just about winning the game, and whatever we got to do to win the game is what we're going to do.
That's not negative at all. That's focusing on winning the game.
No, there you
go. And we'll wrap it up with this. I know this is a pretty important deal for you. You heard you bring it up in a press conference recently. NIL and the importance of NIL. We talk about how crazy the transfer portal is, how crazy college football is nowadays, and just the importance of NIL and getting players in. You got to increase the money. You said it, the price of winning has gone up, and there's these collectives, Maroon and Gold and Victory Star. Just why is that so important? Why is that something that you felt you needed to bring up, and what's it going to look like going forward? And do you think?
Yeah, I think when and if the rev share goes through, that's one thing I feel very confident about. Is we have a president and administration that really cares about football, and so once that comes, I feel really good about where we'll be as far as across the G5 landscape and in our conference and against the people we recruit against. I think we'll have be right up there with them and be able to compete at a high level as far as come to recruiting. But right now it's strictly collective based, and we're not where we need to be, and it's frustrating, and just because of all the success that we've had early on, and we've shown we've been able to recruit at a high level and evaluate at a high level and go put a good product on the field, going to back-to-back bowl games, but nowadays the relationships and scheme and the river and things like that you used to use in recruiting don't necessarily matter as much, and so it's really NIL and collective based, right now for the most part. So we have to continue to get better in that area. And, there's been talks and there's been things going on that we're trying to boost that. But just to be honest, and we're not where we need to be. We need to be up there, and because I know everyone wants to win. I want to win. Players want to win. Fans want to win, administration wants to win, and that's just part of it. When you're talking about, the resources and things that go into winning, the collective and NIL is maybe number one right now. So, like I said, we're always going to find hidden gems, and we're always finding under the radar guys, but those only go so far, man. You need to get guys with experience and good players and good people, and a lot goes into that. And I think you've seen, I think the Texas State fans are used to seeing the splash signings, and I'm not sure what that's going to look like until we get some more, collective money.
It seems like NIL is almost a pillar that will hold up the program until rev share is figured out. It seems like it's really going to be necessary until that's figured out, probably necessary even when that is figured out.
For sure.
But it is more and more. And I think whenever I hear from fans and everything, it's the timid nature behind it is really just confusion of where to put money,
Yeah.
which one of these collectives and everything. So I think that more transparency and more help with that, probably from
For
people
sure.
like on my end media to help
Yeah.
them out with all of that is needed in 2025. Speaking of, Happy New Year! I can't believe we
Oh,
got
Happy
all the
New
way to
Year.
the end.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think for me, obviously, the Maroon and Golden has been, a great partner with us, and I think about all the alumni and all the fans, and it doesn't take much. Anything helps, and it really adds up. I mean, we talk about having 40,000 students and all the living alumni in the area, and really anything helps. And we're not going to make a living, paying these kids, getting Lamborghinis and all that. There's a lot of guys on the team that, have kids and, they have car notes and cell phones. And I think we've done a really good job of being able to handle some of those things. And we're able to retain some of our best players and to be able to recruit. But I think the competitor in all of us, I want to be in the college football playoff. I want to win conference and to be able to do those things. That's why I say we need more, because I want to win, and I signed that 7-year contract for a reason, and I want to take this place or take this school to places it's never been before. So just really excited about the future and what we have going on, and I think this bowl game has the opportunity to create a lot of momentum going into the offseason.
Yeah, well, there it is. Thank you, GJ Kinne. I appreciate you carving time on this busy
For sure.
week. Got a big game coming up on Friday. Looking forward to catching up with you at that one as well.
For sure. Sounds good. Appreciate you.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, brother.
All right. Thank you to GJ Kinne. This episode was brought to you by TGC LLC, the GalindoCollective.com. That's GALINDO, GalindoCollective.com. A team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own property or a business and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com and follow their social media platforms at TGC_LLC and follow them on Instagram and Facebook, the Galindo Collective. Shout out to my guy, Rick Galindo, a true Tech State sicko, a Tech State grad. He's been with us since last season. He's getting us to the bowl game, sponsoring our bowl coverage. Can't thank him enough. Look out for our great coverage coming up in Dallas, brought to you by TGC LLC, the GalindoCollective.com. Oh, sickos, check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/win-now-or-get-bent. Check out our merch site, WNOGB.com. See me wearing the sicko sweater right here. YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent, youtube.com/Win Now or Get Bent. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Let's get those subscriptions up. Follow us on Twitter at Win Now or Get Bent, on Instagram at WNOGB. Like, subscribe, comment on all our audio platforms as well. Apple, Spotify. You can get in there and leave some comments, ratings, whatever you got to do to help us out, help us grow. A big special thank you to TGC once again for sponsoring us getting to the bowl game. I'm excited to get up there and do some great content brought to you by TGC. Also, thank you to First Lockhart National Bank and McNabb and Co. and Austin.patchmaster.com. Thank you to the Wizard, Zachary Webb. Excited to hang with him in Dallas, him and our great intern, Reese Largent. The whole crew will be up there. Hope to see a bunch of you sickos there as well. But we'll be looking for you. We'll be on the lookout. Big shout out to you sickos. What a great season. Wrapping it up, coming up on Friday. Hopefully it's a nice celebratory time. I hope you had a great Christmas. Hope you have a very happy New Year as well. Hope all the good things are happening to you out there listening, sickos. Excited. See you in Dallas. Let's do it. First Responders Bowl, the sequel. We'll see you up there. Win now or get bent.